At 2 a.m., the airport does not feel neutral. The dry AC hits your face. The gate screen has stopped apologizing. The line at the counter is tightening. Someone in a wrinkled blazer is shouting. Someone else has decided the staff are now the enemy. Your hand is wrapped around the suitcase handle, and that small pressure in your palm becomes the only honest object in the room. The event is simple: the flight is cancelled. Everything after that is judgment. The first impression says, "This is personal. This is urgent. You are being disrespected. You must join the noise or be left powerless." Epictetus would tell you to stop there. Not to pretend the delay is pleasant. Not to excuse incompetence. But to see the boundary before you surrender it. The crowd can lose command of itself. You do not have to hand over yours. The boundary of control does not appear when life is calm. It appears when the counter is closed, the agent is exhausted, the announcement is final, and the people around you begin acting as if volume can reverse reality. That is why this airport gate matters. A cancelled flight at 2 a.m. is not a philosophy problem in a book. It is a real inconvenience. It can cost money. It can break a schedule. It can ruin a meeting. It can leave a family waiting on the other end. It can make tomorrow heavier before tomorrow even begins. Stoicism does not ask you to call that nothing. It asks you to stop calling it yours. The cancellation is not yours to govern. The weather is not yours. The airline system is not yours. The tired agent's authority is not yours. The crowd's anger is not yours. The next available seat is not yours. The opinion of the man behind you, who thinks anyone not yelling is weak, is not yours. Even the reputation you imagine losing because you will not arrive on time is not fully yours. It belongs to other minds, other judgments, other conditions. What is yours? The judgment you form. The assent you give. The intention behind your next word. The attention you choose to place. The movement of your hand, your feet, your phone, your voice. That is not a small territory. It only feels small because the mind wants control over the larger map. It wants the gate reopened, the plane restored, the schedule repaired, the room made quiet, the inconvenience erased. And when it cannot command those things, it is tempted to command something easier, a person at the desk. So the mob forms. Not always as a crowd of bad people. Often as a crowd of frightened, tired, inconvenienced people who have forgotten the boundary. Each person takes the same false step. Because this event has power over my plans, it must also have power over my conduct. That is the error. An event may touch your plans without ruling your character. A delay may change your arrival without dictating your speech. A cancellation may cost you comfort without purchasing your dignity. At the departure gate, your hand tightens around the suitcase handle. That pressure is useful. It brings the lesson out of abstraction. Before you speak, feel the handle. Before you step toward the counter, feel the handle. Before you borrow the anger of the room, feel the handle. It is not magic. It is a reminder. There is the event. There is the impression. There is your judgment about the impression. And there is the choice to assent or withhold assent long enough to act like a person instead of an echo. The dry airport AC keeps pushing against your face. Your eyes are tired. Your phone battery is low. Someone is recording. Someone is demanding a hotel voucher as if rage will make the policy bend faster. Someone says, "This is unacceptable," and maybe it is. But the question is not whether you approve of the cancellation. The question is whether disapproval requires surrendering the only authority that is truly yours. You can still walk to the counter. You can still ask direct questions. You can still request options, document names, check later flights, call the person waiting for you, find a chair, protect your bag, and make the next responsible move. None of that requires joining the angry mob. The boundary of control is not passivity. It is command placed in the correct location. It does not say, "Do nothing." It says, "Do not confuse noise with agency." It says, "Act where action belongs, and stop bleeding authority into things that cannot receive it." The airline may owe you an answer. The staff may need to do their duty. You may need to push for what is reasonable. But your manner is still yours. Your timing is still yours. Your refusal to insult a person who did not create the storm is still yours. Your ability to notice the first spark before it becomes a sentence is still yours. The crowd believes pressure gives permission. Epictetus teaches the opposite. Pressure reveals the place where permission must be examined. You are not responsible for the cancelled flight. You are responsible for not adding disorder to disorder and then calling it justice. You are responsible for seeing that frustration is an impression, not a law. You are responsible for holding the suitcase handle and remembering that the real gate in front of you is not only the one with the locked jet bridge. It is the gate between impulse and assent. It is the gate between impulse and assent. That is where the real cancellation happens. Not when the airline cancels the flight. That is outside you. That belongs to weather, machines, schedules, crews, policies, and 1,000 decisions you did not make. The deeper cancellation happens when the mind cancels its own discipline. When it receives an impression and signs it as truth before examining it. At the departure gate, the impression arrives fast. The screen changes. The announcement lands. The crowd rises. The dry AC keeps blowing. The body is tired, and tiredness makes every appearance look more believable. The mind says, "This is an attack on my day. This is proof I am being treated like nothing. This means I have to fight right now." That is an impression. It is not yet knowledge. Epictetus keeps bringing us back to this point because most people lose freedom before they know a decision has been made. They do not say, "I have judged this cancellation to be an insult, and I now choose anger as my instrument." They simply feel the first appearance and obey it. They call obedience honesty. They call reaction strength. They call noise standing up for themselves. But the first appearance is not the master. The flight is cancelled. That is the event. This should not happen to me. That is judgment. They do not care about me. That is judgment. If I do not raise my voice, I will be powerless. That is judgment. Everyone else is yelling, so this is the correct way to act. That is judgment. The danger is not that judgments exist. You need judgment to live. You must judge what to ask, where to stand, whom to call, whether to book another route, whether to sleep in the terminal or find a hotel. The danger is unexamined judgment wearing the clothing of fact. The angry crowd helps that disguise. A single angry person can be dismissed. A whole gate full of anger feels like evidence. The volume becomes a kind of false courtroom. People look around and silently ask, "Is my reaction approved?" The mob answers yes. So the mind assents, not because it has examined the matter, but because the room has given permission. That is the assent trap. You do not merely notice the anger. You let it decide your next word. You do not merely feel pressure. You let it move your feet toward the counter with contempt already prepared. You do not merely hear the shouting. You borrow its rhythm and call it your own. Now the cancelled flight has become more than a cancelled flight. It has been promoted. The mind has raised it above the ruling faculty. Speed, convenience, reputation, and public emotional permission have been placed above choice. The external has been allowed to sit on the throne. This is how a person becomes less free in public. Not by being delayed. By assenting to the belief that delay authorizes disorder. Hold the suitcase handle. That is the simple return. Not dramatic. Not impressive. No one at the gate may even notice it. But you notice. Your fingers around the handle give the mind a place to stand. Here is the object. Here is the breath. Here is the moment before speech. Here is the narrow space where a human being can refuse to become a copy of the room. Name the impression. This appears urgent. This appears personal. This appears threatening. This appears to require anger. Do not argue with the appearance as if you can make it vanish. Just name it accurately. An appearance named as an appearance loses some of its stolen authority. It may still be loud. It may still press on you. But it is no longer pretending to be the whole truth. Then ask the harder question, what judgment am I adding? Because the event did not say, insult the staff. The event did not say, abandon your dignity. The event did not say, your worth is now held by an airline counter. Those instructions came from judgment. And if judgment added them, judgment can remove them. This does not mean becoming soft, vague, or useless. It means approaching the counter with your faculty intact. You can ask, what are my options? You can ask, who can authorize rebooking? You can ask, what is the policy for lodging? You can write down the answer. You can protect your schedule as far as it can be protected. But you do it without surrendering command of yourself to an impression that arrived tired, dry-mouthed, and angry at 2 a.m. The crowd will still be loud. The staff may still be slow. The flight may still be cancelled. But assent remains yours. But assent remains yours. So the training begins there, not later, not after the airport becomes quiet, not after the airline solves the problem, not after your mood improves. Ascesis is not decoration added to a calm life. It is practice under resistance. It is the work of keeping your ruling faculty in order while the world supplies inconvenience, noise, fatigue, and people who make poor conduct look normal. At 2 a.m., the departure gate becomes a training ground. The first exercise is physical stillness. Not paralysis. Not weakness. Just one deliberate refusal to be dragged by the first surge. Your hand is on the suitcase handle. Keep it there for a moment. Let the handle remind you that movement should answer judgment, not impulse. The crowd moves toward the counter as if motion itself proves seriousness. You do not need to join that first wave. You can stand, observe, and let the first impression spend its force. The second exercise is speech delayed. There are times when the right sentence is available only after the wrong sentence has been denied. At the gate, the wrong sentence is easy. It wants to begin with accusation. It wants to turn the staff member into the whole airline, the whole storm, the whole injustice of travel, business pressure, missed sleep, and lost control. Do not give it your mouth. A person can be firm without being disorderly. The exercise is to let the sentence pass through examination before it becomes sound. What is the next useful question? That is better than, how dare they do this? Who can tell me the rebooking options? That is better than, you people never know what you're doing. What part of this can I act on now? That is better than rehearsing the full case against reality. The third exercise is attention returned. The mind will keep leaving the task. It will go to tomorrow's meeting. It will go to the client waiting in another city. It will go to the person at home who already thought you traveled too much. It will go to the stranger filming the crowd, to the voice behind you, to the insult you want to answer, to the fantasy of making the room recognize how badly you have been treated. Bring it back. Not because those things are meaningless. Because they are not the next governable action. Look at the phone screen. Check the airline app. Check the next possible route. Check whether the card in your wallet covers lodging. Check whether the person waiting for you needs a short message now rather than a full explanation later. Check whether the line at the desk is useful or whether the app will move faster. Check whether standing in the angry crowd is action or merely participation in disorder. Ascesis is often this plain. It is not a speech about virtue. It is not a performance of calm. It is the discipline of doing the next proper thing without pretending that the next proper thing must feel satisfying. The fourth exercise is refusing public permission. This is one of the harder parts of the scenario. The crowd gives moral cover. When everyone is shouting, your own anger feels less like a choice and more like membership. The mind says, this is how people are acting, so this is what the situation requires. But numbers do not purify judgment. 100 people can assent too quickly. A full gate can mistake pressure for entitlement. A crowd can make vice feel ordinary. That does not make the judgment sound. You are not required to match the room. You are required to examine what you are about to give yourself to. At the counter, the staff member may be tired, limited, and unhelpful. Still, your task is not to become careless because someone else is limited. Your task is to keep your own office. Ask clearly. Listen exactly. Repeat what matters. Write down names, times, and options. If the answer is unacceptable, ask for the next responsible channel. If there is nothing left to decide, stop feeding the scene with useless force. This is discipline under pressure, to separate firmness from anger, action from noise, urgency from panic, and justice from the pleasure of making someone pay. The suitcase handle is still there. The dry AC is still there. The cancelled flight is still there. But now the scene has changed in one decisive way. It is no longer only something happening to you. It is something in which you are practicing the difference between being affected and being governed. It is something in which you are practicing the difference between being affected and being governed. That difference must become conduct. A Stoic does not stop at private self-control. The point is not to stand at the gate feeling superior to the people who lost command of themselves. That would only be another form of disorder, cleaner on the outside but still centered on vanity. The work is not to look calm. The work is to do your duty in the circumstance actually given. At a departure gate, duty is not complicated, but it is demanding. You have a duty to act reasonably for your own obligations. If people are waiting for you in another city, they deserve honest information, not dramatic silence while you stew in resentment. Send the message. Make the call. State the fact without adding poison to it. The flight was cancelled. I am checking options now. I will update you when I know the next route. That is enough. You do not need to make the airline into a villain in every sentence. You do not need to perform your frustration for sympathy. The duty is communication, not emotional broadcasting. You have a duty to seek what is owed or reasonable. If the airline has a policy, ask for it. If rebooking is available, pursue it. If lodging or meal support applies, request it directly. If there is a supervisor, ask in order, not as a threat. This is where many people misunderstand discipline. They think calm means surrendering the claim. It does not. Calm means the claim is no longer contaminated by contempt. You can be persistent. You can be precise. You can refuse a bad answer and still refuse to become a bad actor. The staff at the counter are not yours to govern. Their tone is not yours. Their speed is not yours. Their authority may be limited. They may be doing their best, or they may not. None of that transfers your responsibility away from you. Their failure, if there is failure, does not appoint your anger as judge, prosecutor, and punishment. Your conduct remains your office. Epictetus would not ask, "Did the airline behave well?" before asking, "Did you?" Not because the airline is beyond criticism, but because your own faculty is the part entrusted to you. If you abandon it whenever someone else falls short, then your character is rented out to every delay, every clerk, every policy, every stranger having a worse night than you. That is not strength. That is dependence. Look again at the angry mob. Some of them may have real reasons to be distressed. A missed connection. A child at home. A medical appointment. A job on the line. A bill that becomes harder because another hotel night is not easy. Stoicism does not erase those facts. It requires you to carry facts without turning them into permission for injustice. Responsibility means you do not add needless injury to a hard event. It means you do not make the youngest gate agent absorb the punishment meant for weather, scheduling, corporate policy, and your own fear of tomorrow. It means you do not teach your own mind that yelling is the price of being taken seriously. It means you do not let public chaos write your private law. There is also a duty toward the people beside you. Maybe there is an older traveler who cannot hear the announcement. Maybe someone does not understand where the rebooking line begins. Maybe the person behind you is close to losing control, and your refusal to escalate becomes one less spark in the air. You do not need to become a hero. You do not need to preach. Just do not increase the disorder. Sometimes the most useful civic act in a crowded airport is to speak plainly, stand where you should stand, and leave room for others to do the same. Conduct is contagious in both directions. The mob says, "Join us, or you are weak." Duty says, "Do what belongs to you, whether the room applauds or not." At 2 a.m., with dry air in your throat and the suitcase handle in your palm, responsibility may look ordinary. You check the app. You step out of the crowd to think. You ask the counter one clear question at a time. You write down what is said. You protect your documents. You answer the people who depend on you. You keep your voice within your command. This is not a retreat from the world. It is the only way to enter the world without being owned by it. It is the only way to enter the world without being owned by it. Freedom, in this airport, is not getting the flight restored. That may happen, or it may not. Freedom is not making the counter move faster. Freedom is not forcing every angry stranger to become reasonable. Freedom is not being admired for staying composed while others fall apart. Freedom is the condition of a mind that has not sold its judgment to the first appearance. The flight can be cancelled and you can remain responsible. The crowd can shout and you can remain exact. The dry AC can press against your face and you can still pause before assent. Your suitcase handle is still in your palm. The screen still says what it says. The hour is still late. The inconvenience is still real. But now the event has been returned to its proper size. It is an obstacle, not a ruler. It can change your route, your schedule, your expense, your sleep. It cannot command your faculty unless you give it that office. So act. Ask what must be asked. Request what is reasonable. Communicate with those who depend on you. Make the next arrangement. Then stop feeding the scene with judgments that only make the delay heavier. The Stoic boundary is not coldness. It is precision. This is outside me. This is inside my care. This is the event. This is my assent. At 2 a.m., under airport lights, surrounded by noise, that distinction is enough to begin again. Return to what is yours to govern.